Mr. Higgins for 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to be yielding some time to my colleague, Mr. Jordan, here momentarily. But for the record, Mr. Baker, Ms. Gotti, Mr. Roth, Mr. Navaroli, are you here under the advice of counsel, and do you have counsel present?
Yes, sir.
That was a yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I was subpoenaed
That's
to
good to
appear.
know. I'm glad you all have counsel present. Mr. Chairman, for the for submission for the record, I'd like consent to submit the Twitter files dated December the 8th, posted by the New York Post regarding the suppression of conservative commentators. Like that submitted.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'd like to also submit for the record a timeline of events with cited sources outlining strong evidence of the Biden family organized criminal actions would certainly indicate that we've crossed the threshold of reasonable suspicion. I'd like this timeline submitted for the record.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, where is that from, that timeline?
Timeline in my hand, boss. I'll get it to you shortly. Bottom line is that the FBI had the Biden crime family laptop for a year. They knew it was leaking. They knew it would hurt the Biden campaign. So the FBI used its relationship with Twitter to suppress criminal evidence being revealed about Joe Biden 1 month before the 2020 elections. You, ladies and gentlemen, interfered with the United States of America 2020 presidential election, knowingly and willingly. That's the bad news. It's going to get worse because this is the investigation part. Later comes the arrest part. Your attorneys are familiar with that. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to spend 5 hours with these ladies and gentlemen during depositions surely yet to come. But for right now, I'll yield the balance of my time to my colleague, Mr. Jordan.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. I think he made the right point. And I would just respond to to our colleague from New York. You know who knew the laptop was real was the FBI. They had it for, or maybe they had it for a year and just said, you know what, we're going to put it on the shelf, we're not going to look at it. But if anyone knew it was real, it's them. That's why I asked the question, again, back to my colleague from New York, what he was talking about. That's why I asked the question earlier. I said, did anyone at the FBI or Mr. Baker know, did Mr. Baker talk to any of those 51 former intel officials who sent the letters saying this has all the classic earmarks of a Russian misinformation operation? Maybe they could have checked with the FBI because the FBI had the actual laptop in their possession. So I appreciate the gentleman from Louisiana. I think it's a great point that he made. Mr. Roth, I'm going to come back to you on something we were at a few hours ago. And we're talking about this visibility filtering, which in my mind I understand to be something short of suspending and blocking the account, which the user then knows has happened because there's a notification in a public way, like you did to Ms. Green when you suspended her account. But there's other things, this search blacklist, this do not amplify, that are some kind of filtering that account that the user doesn't know about. And I asked the question earlier, was there any bit of this visibility filtering that was hard-coded by Twitter employees into the account of specific users? And you said, you hesitated for a while, and you said, well, you wouldn't use the term hard-coded, but it seemed to me like something like that went on. Can you elaborate?
Thank you for the question. Twitter's visibility filtering system, as has been reported in the Twitter files, is based on applying labels to user accounts. And so in that sense, if the application of a label is what you meant by hard-coded, yes, Twitter systems did apply those designations to those accounts. But it was seldom the case that Twitter staff would manually, individually go in and apply those labels directly.
Were any government officials, were those labels and therefore that filtering done to any government officials, any elected officials where the user wouldn't know about?
I don't know, sir. I didn't have access to my Twitter computer, to any Twitter systems to prepare me to answer that question. So
I'm just talking your time there, and your experience there. Do you know if that happened?
It would not surprise me to know that visibility filtering labels had been applied to the accounts of elected officials.
So visibility filtered labels applied to the accounts, but the user doesn't know.
Yes, it was not Twitter's practice to notify users.
But
of
you
the
think that happened to elected officials and government officials?
Again, I couldn't say for sure.
I appreciate it. I yield back.
Chair recognizes Mr. Mafume for 5 minutes.
Well, Mr. Chairman, it's been a long morning and afternoon. And at this point in time, there's an adage that says everything that can be said has been said, except that not everyone has said it. So if you will indulge me for a few minutes, I'd just like to reflect on some observations, having sat here and gone through this. And I'm hoping and praying that this is not a problem in search of a solution, because we're dedicating an awful amount of time here, and I don't want a few things to escape us. But having said that, I want to first associate myself with the remarks of Mr. Raskin, the ranking chair. His opening remarks succinctly, I think, encapsulated and put in place what many of us on this side of the aisle are feeling. And I also, as a point of personal privilege, would like to just express how many of us share the concern of the gentlewoman from South Carolina who indicated her ongoing medical condition, which she said she might have to live with the rest of her life. That just got me for a moment, and I wanted to make sure that that's on the record. Now, I would disassociate myself with her remarks when she said, as did the gentlewoman from Georgia, God bless Elon Musk. For me, it's God bless my country, God bless my family, God bless my friends. Mr. Musk can take care of himself. I would also caution, if I might, all of us, but particularly the gentleman from South Carolina who said earlier that there is proof that Hunter Biden committed multiple felonies. The gentleman said that without offering anything for the record. And I know we're all covered by congressional immunity in terms of when we're on the floor and when we're in these committees, but sometimes we probably don't want to feed into hot rhetoric. I mean, we campaign in that kind of poetry, but we are elected to govern in prose. And when you do that, there's a different sense of responsibility that goes with all of us. Mr. Roth, I listened to you, and I feel bad that you were attacked. And, you know, you had to sell your home. You had to move your family. And I just want to remind you and remind myself that there are members of this committee who are also always under attack because of their race or because of their surname or because of their political affiliation. That kind of reckless incitement, I think, is best dealt with when you have content moderation. Otherwise, we gin up the rhetoric. The people who can't control themselves oftentimes don't, and then we see violence occurring against whether it's members of Congress through threats or persons like yourself in the private sector. Ms. Navaroli, you in your testimony stated that on the morning of January the 6th that you sent lawyers a message warning them that your team was hamstrung by leadership. And 2 days later, when it looked like that might happen again, you asked management whether or not they wanted more blood on their hands. What was their response, and what did they do?
Yes, thank you for that question. On the morning of January 6th, I did send that message to a Twitter lawyer specifically because I believe that Twitter was going to be facing liability for what was going to occur that day. I do not remember their exact response, but I do remember there coming in a response of confirming that the information had been received. Would you repeat the second question that you asked?
I wanted to know what was their response. What did they do?
Nothing.
Okay, you went on to say that in January of 2020, after the United States assassinated an Iranian general, that the president at that time, Mr. Trump, decided to justify it on Twitter, and management literally instructed you to make sure that we were not about to start World War III on that platform. Is that correct?
Yes, that did occur.
And what happened after that?
It was up to me and my team to create what we called enforcement guidance, so a document that explained how we would apply our policies specifically related to content moderation in that specific instance. I believe the document was relating to foreign policy discourse.
So my point here about content moderation on the front end prevents some of the crazy things we see on the back end. Mr. Chairman, I have from the Anti-Defamation League their latest report on murder and extremism in the United States, oftentimes fueled by the lack of content moderation, that I would ask unanimous consent be entered into the record. And I also have the National Threat Assessment done by the Secret Service of our country. This was just released, and it talks about how 25% of all of these acts are being conducted by people who are not moderated, but who in fact end up breaking the law and threatening the lives of people. And I would ask unanimous consent that also be.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you, sir.
Chair recognizes Mr. Sessions for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. So I will say it, God bless Elon Musk, because I think I feel that way. It was Elon Musk that revealed data that uncovered a disturbing cabal. Let's be clear, we're here today because Twitter got caught, not because people wanted to admit mistakes got made, or perhaps because they got bought. If not for the Twitter files released by Mr. Elon Musk, this activity we're discussing today would still be going on. It's no secret that the political bias of Twitter and their previous leadership bled into politics and merged that with practices of the company. And that is a big concern. But a bigger concern is where our government, on a political basis by law enforcement, becomes engaged in things that a timeline would show were not truthful. That's the concern. The fact that Twitter was working hand in glove with the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the intelligence community to suppress free speech and things that were not true is disturbing. That is why we are here today. So, Mr. Roth, I would engage you if I could for a minute. By the way, I want to compliment all four of you. You've been here all day. This is hard to do. You've kept your cool. To the best of your ability, you're expressing honesty. I admire that. Mr. Roth, can you please tell me about the meetings with the FBI? How many? Where did they take place? How do they accomplish what they wanted?
Thank you for the question.
Yes, sir.
Twitter met with the FBI, I would estimate, several dozen times over the course of multiple years. These meetings happened in person, in the Twitter office, in the offices of other technology companies, and at times they happened virtually. We issued press releases about these meetings. They were not happening in secret. They were not anything that the public sector or the private sector strove to hide from anybody. But in these meetings, we used it as an opportunity to discuss the shared threats of foreign malign interference, to discuss the preparations that the public and private sector were implementing, and to use that as an opportunity to make sure that we were having open channels of communication about those malign interference threats.
Ms. Roth, did you at any time believe that the Bureau might not be honest about the things they knew and the information that they shared and passed to you?
I would say I have a personal healthy skepticism about any type of law enforcement, but no, it was never my experience that representatives of the FBI were anything but forthright in those discussions.
Do you believe that they, today, in looking back, misled you?
I don't believe so, no.
So you believe that the things which they told you, in looking back, are truthful even today?
To the best of my recollection, yes.
So the chance for FBI numerous times, dozens of times, to meet with you, Did you put out information of the substance when you said you provided the public with information? Did you discuss what those meetings were about?
I believe the public statements were fairly high level and talked about preparations for upcoming elections in the United States. Any internal records or meeting minutes would be on my Twitter computer, which I don't have access to.
And does that reside, to the best of your knowledge, currently at Twitter?
Yes, sir. I returned all Twitter property to the company when I chose to
Yes,
leave.
and that would be a requirement, generally speaking.
Yes.
So you believe that the Bureau met with you, they did not mislead you, that you were as forthright as you could be to the public, and that you were playing the role that you felt like was responsible. Is that your testimony today?
Yes, sir, it is.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back, and Stansbury. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I'm beginning to feel like a little bad for the majority. Like I just feel guilty because you guys have come today to try to prove that the Biden administration in coordination with Twitter is impugning free speech. And the problem is that Donald Trump, he is just this thing that hangs around your neck. Because at every turn, he undermines whatever credibility you want to have on this subject. I mean, Donald Trump and his administration, it's been proven, reached out to Twitter to take down tweets that got under his skin. The tough guy, Donald Trump, right? He got called the B word. Let's reach out to Twitter. Let's get the tweet taken down. You guys have no credibility. You have none. Your own guy taking free speech off of Twitter. You know, I also don't understand this bipolar thing that you're doing with Joe Biden. So every day you guys tweet out, Joe Biden is boring, he's sleepy. Every day you say it on TV. Now you want to tell the American people Joe Biden is an international super mastermind along with his son Hunter. I mean, it's just bananas. You know, the Trump family is getting billions of dollars of loans from foreign governments by using their White House relationships. Any questions? Any questions on that? No, I didn't think so. You want to know if the Trump family made any money selling PPE during the pandemic out of the West Wing? Any questions about that? No, I didn't think so. But let's move on to Hunter Biden's laptop. Your leaker, I always love this, by the way. You guys are against leakers unless they're leaking things you like. Your leaker, Matt Isaac, and I love, you know, have you seen this guy? I mean, he's like a Radio Shack dot matrix guy who copied files off a private citizen's hard drive, okay? That's your entire theory is based off of. But I want to use his words. This is his own words. Your guy, your leaker, the guy who gave you the information. There have been several attempts by several individuals to modify and insert fake data. I do know there has been multiple attempts over the past year and a half to insert questionable material into the laptop, to pass off information or disinformation as coming from the laptop. He continued, "This is a major concern of mine because I fought tooth and nail to protect the integrity of the drive, and to jeopardize that is going to mean everything I sacrificed will be for nothing." Your guy, your leaker, questioning the integrity of the information you guys are peddling. By the way, why isn't he here? Bring him here. Let's ask him questions. And why haven't we seen the hard drive? You guys aren't shy. Why won't you show it to the American people? Let's talk about Twitter. Let's talk about God bless Elon Musk. See these? God bless the guy who is allowing Nazis and anti-Semitism to perpetrate Twitter. There's been a 66% increase of anti-Semitism on Twitter since Elon Musk set it free. Mr. Chairman, I agree with you. It's not fair to say all conservatives are Nazis. That's preposterous. That's not true. But your Lord and Savior Donald Trump is having tea and dinner with them at Mar-a-Lago. Nick Fuentes right here, who is a picture that is tweeted at me all the time saying Jews are a virus in response to my tweets. Donald Trump's having dinner with him. Nazis at Mar-a-Lago. And so, no, not all Republicans are Nazis, but I got to tell you, Nazis seem really comfortable with Donald Trump. So I have questions about that, Mr. Chairman. Why is that? Why do I get these tweets? Let's talk about Kanye West, right? The chairman of the Judiciary Committee for 3 months praising Kanye West. We love Kanye, right? A Nazi. Clearly now. It took months for that tweet to come down. How come? I mean, these are things I'd love to know. Is it because maybe they're your voters? I mean, they certainly aren't voting for me. I yield back.